Story 1. I do not have faith in American democracy or the system of checks and balances to prevent this. However, I do have some faith in his inevitable death. Story 2. I believe it is treasonous to pursue this, and anyone who supports it is an enemy of American democracy. This needs to be removed like a tumor. This type of behavior will erode our politics towards genuine tyranny, and it must never be allowed to happen. Story 3. Bill Maher recently discussed this topic on his show, which I happened to catch on YouTube. He mentioned that Republicans need to acknowledge that their actions are not right. There is no real debate. A third term is wrong and could lead down an even scarier path. Story 4. I'm sure it's not a joke, but the timing is just to distract from the Signal situation. Greenland 2. Signal is significant, the market decline is serious, the unpopularity of Dogecoin is notable, and he needs to keep diverting attention. He has done this before. Don't lose focus. Story 5. I can just picture the day Trump performs an Elvis Presley act in the White House, and Caroline Leavitt has to announce it. Story 6. I think that people who proudly yell America are actually insane. There is nothing more un-American than what we've already seen in these first 2 months. Story 7. Assuming elections do not get suspended, there is no way they will be able to push through a constitutional amendment. There are 2 ways to do it, and they do not have the numbers for either. Story 8. He is clearly not concerned with the Constitution or the law. We are in a constitutional crisis. He will illegally remain in office through force or any means necessary. He wants to become a king and is not worried about being elected again. He will not concede power and may attempt to write a new constitution. From his perspective, if no one is enforcing the law to make him step down, then the law and the paper it is written on are meaningless. Say goodbye to America as we knew it. Story 9. Let Biden have said this, and the conservatives would be calling him a tyrant. They are the most hypocritical people ever. Story 10. Completely unsurprised. There is the MAGA cult, and then there are those who support Trump and see themselves as reasonable. The gulf between these individuals and never-Trumpers has always centered on the relevance of Trump's personality defects. His narcissism, dishonesty, deep ignorance, incuriosity, Dunning-Kruger mentality, crudeness, cruelty, and lack of empathy. Trump supporters have always tried to downplay his negative characteristics as unimportant, dismissing them as Trump being Trump, insisting that what truly matters are his policies. On the other hand, never-Trumpers have argued since the moment Trump descended the golden escalator that he is an entirely different creature. His pathologies are non-negotiable aspects of his being, and all his actions stem from those issues. With Trump, all politics is personal, and his personality is toxic and detrimental to civic life and effective governance. When someone is in charge who cannot accept losing, that person is constitutionally unsuitable for democracy. Every single Trump critic was proven unequivocally correct by January 6th. Since then, Trump has perpetuated the big lie. Everything Trump is doing now, all the chaos, callousness, bullying, and burning of bridges, springs from his own personality. He is ensuring that the rest of the world detests America as much as most of New York City disliked Trump when he refused to keep himself out of the headlines. So if you have someone constitutionally incapable of accepting rules and ever losing, his talk of a third term is the most predictable thing of all. Story 11. The only surprising thing about this to me is how quickly the people who constantly claim that he is not doing the insane unconstitutional actions he is always engaging in go from saying, "He's not doing that. You're just delusional to think he is," to, "Of course, he's doing it, and it's totally fine even though it's illegal and insane because a news network told me it's okay." Every time. I don't understand how people can so frequently cross every line that their morals, however tiny they may be, should tell them is too far. Just like there's nothing they won't make excuses for at this point. Literally nothing. Story 12. I believe that the moment a sitting president, especially Donald Trump, makes any comment regarding a third term, the people need to remember that we are not governed by Trump. We are held captive by him. We are governed by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, particularly the First Amendment, which protects freedom of speech. Now is the time to seek inspiration and wisdom from our founding documents, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Story 13. The man is 80 and in terrible health. I don't think he will make it through this term, much less a third. Story 14. He is a dictator. We stated this. Propaganda from television, websites, and personalities all claimed we were overreacting. He is a dictator. Most developed countries are issuing warnings not to come here. The majority of developed nations no longer consider us a democracy. He is a dictator. Story 15. I believe there are constitutional solutions to tyranny that we have yet to explore. The 22nd Amendment, the 25th Amendment, and others. Story 16. Third, that is not how fascism works. He is priming the pumps to suspend free and fair elections. He is not leaving willingly. Story 17. If someone convincingly told me I could undo just his second term by having my legs surgically removed, I would immediately start looking for a wheelchair and wheelchair basketball leagues. Story 18. He is in poor health and may not survive the term. He is losing weight and is quite elderly. Story 19. Trump is quite old, does not exercise, and has a poor diet, in addition to already showing signs of suffering from strokes. Even if he wanted to run for a third term, he may not be in good enough health to do so. Story 20. He is already a convicted felon with 34 charges against him. It would not surprise me if he makes another attempt. I am furious that the Democrats and anyone with common sense haven't done more to stop him. Even the television news avoids confronting him. They never hold him accountable for the truth. They are all afraid they will face consequences. Story 21. Frustrated and angry that he is still alive despite his diet and drug use, especially since people like me will suffer when he cuts Medicaid. Story 22. It is a line that should never be crossed. No one person deserves or needs that much power. I do not care which party you support, but the 22nd Amendment is clear on this. It is not even something that should be joked about. Story 23. I remember my grandfather telling me stories about leaders who refused to step down. He grew up in a country where elections were just for show, and every time the leader's term was supposed to end, some excuse would arise, such as a national emergency, foreign threats, or economic instability. People laughed at first, claiming it was just talk. Then the rules began to bend, the opposition became quieter, and before they realized it, the idea of change turned into a distant memory. When Donald Trump jokes about a third term, it reminds me of those stories. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's just bluster. But history has a peculiar way of repeating itself when people don't take it seriously. Story 24. There is only one solution to deal with fascists, and the sooner it happens, the better it will be for the whole world. Story 25. I thought he would be in jail months ago because of all the crimes he committed. However, it seems the law does not apply to him, so why should the Constitution? After all, it is just a mangy old paper. Story 26. Oh, but Biden was too old. That's hypocritical. I don't think it will happen, or if it does, it won't last long. Story 27. Surprised it took him this long to admit it publicly. This was always going to be the case. Anyone surprised he wants a third term is uninformed. Story 28. The current U.S. administration is trying to destroy the country. Story 29. His desire is outlined in the Project 2025 playbook. J.D. Vance will run for the presidency with him as a vice president. Once J.D. wins, he will have Ellen's financial support, and he will claim he is stepping down for some reason, allowing Trump to take over. If you want to prevent this, start working now to get it done. Story 30. I feel like it's impossible, and those who try will ultimately fail. If, for whatever reason, it goes through, I could see Obama running again, and that's something the Republicans would not want to see. Story 31. Who wants this person for a third term? He thinks he is Lincoln or something. Read the room. This is not appropriate behavior. Story 32. I hope he experiences a slow and painful demise. I hope he realizes that no one genuinely loves him or has ever loved him, and that his life is built on someone else's money and lies. I also hope he understands that no matter how much money he has had in his life, he is still repugnant both inside and out. Every day, I hope for his demise. It would be one of the best days of my life, and I have had many amazing days. Story 33. I swear to God. To all the individuals who voted for this candidate and are now regretting it, we told you so. Story 34. If he runs for a third term, he violates the Constitution. If the legal system doesn't stop him, it is up to the people. Story 35. He is full of nonsense as usual. However, there is a large group of people who would welcome it. This country is in trouble. Story 36. My husband is an immigrant and my daughter is transgender. I am ready for change if we cannot get him out. Story 37. Even if a president were elected who perfectly matched my political ideals and turned out to be the best president in the world, I would still be vehemently against it. Story 38. Hopefully he passes away before then. He is in the age group of individuals who are at a higher risk of dying due to old age. Story 39. Watching US politics is like watching a deranged sitcom, but then you realize it's actually a horror movie. Please do not invade Europe first, okay? I want to stay alive until the next A Song of Ice and Fire book comes out. Story 40. Trump seeking a third term is no surprise to anyone. It is also not surprising that his supporters are upset about it, as if once he is allowed to run for a third term, they would not vote for him again. What does surprise me is how much of a correction the political right does not anticipate. The current actions they are taking will lead to a reversal that will be so severe that the rest of us will be very uncomfortable with it. Story 41. His first term was not good, and the start of his second is a disaster. What will his third term entail? Will he damage the country further? Story 42. Unfortunately, if no one stops them from vote manipulation again like they did in 2024, he will remain in power. If the Democrats lose in Wisconsin this week, there must be an audit before anyone concedes. Story 43. Most Americans do not want that. He will not appear on ballots in most states, and I imagine most states will award the electoral votes to the second most voted person if enough people write in his name despite his absence from the ballots. The scarier uncertainty is that they could win with other candidates who are complicit and who might nominate Trump as Speaker of the House, a position that is appointed rather than elected. They could then both resign shortly after, allowing him to assume the presidency as part of a chain of command. This scenario must be prevented. Congress should take action and change the law to ensure this cannot happen in future elections. Trump desires to remain in power due to his ego and the fact that if he is no longer president, he will lose his immunity from facing the criminal cases and sentencing related to the recent crimes for which he was found guilty. Story 44. Assuming our government still pays attention to the Constitution, the 12th and 22nd Amendments make this impossible. Story 45. It's unconstitutional. Either that is final or we no longer live in the United States of America. Story 46. He can talk about this all day long, just like taking over Greenland, the Panama Canal, and Canada. Look at him. He is not going to make it through these 4 years, let alone another term. His brain is deteriorating as fast as his makeup is. Story 47. He mentioned that we won't have to vote in another election. I've been telling people, but they just think I'm overreacting. Story 48. I must say, as an outsider looking in, you are heading towards fascism without realizing it. You seem unaware and are rushing into it. Story 49. Last time it was all a joke. This time, I believe everything that comes out of his deranged mind. Story 50. I don't care if it's John F. Kennedy or Donald Trump. They wanted to make George Washington a king, and he said no and graciously gave up his power. That's America. I'm with Washington. Story 51. I don't think he will live that long. But if you support this, you are a traitor to American democracy, and you probably shouldn't live that long either. Treason has a certain punishment for a reason. We need to stop hesitating. Story 52. He may not be joking, but it is a useful way to distract us all while the Republicans continue to irrevocably destroy the government. Story 53. Let's see what the conservative subgroup says before they receive their marching orders. There are many comments suggesting that he is just trolling. First, the fact that they are okay with a president trolling to the point where they are arguing with each other about "get over it, he's joking," and have a sense of humor is incredibly sad. Have some respect for yourselves and this country by not accepting a president who not only trolls but also trolls about disregarding the Constitution. What a group of immature individuals. Additionally, he is not joking. How many times do you claim he is joking, only for him to pursue whatever he joked about, forcing you to twist yourselves into accepting it now? Story 54. Sometimes I really dislike being right. Many of us warned that if we elected him, he would attempt to remain in power. Story 55. No way. I want two middle-of-the-road candidates. I want to actually like both and not just vote for the one I dislike less. Story 56. He has been detrimental to both domestic and international markets and politics. He did nothing to address inflation and opted for increased tariffs instead. Regarding the implementation of these tariffs, he seems uncertain about his course of action, changing his mind daily. The focus has been on cultural issues without any substantial progress. Who in their right mind would want him as the nation's leader? Story 57. It should be noted that Trump won against two women but lost to a man, Biden. As much as I would like to see a woman president, what the Democrats need is a younger, charismatic, savvy man to run in 2028. Whether it is against Trump or Vance, my hope is that the Democrats will win the presidency, the Senate, and the House. Story 58. His supporters are already shifting the goalposts and justifying it. Oh well, technically a third term is allowed. I have seen many comments like this on Reddit today. There is absolutely no line he can cross that will make them stop supporting him. Story 59. He is intent on undermining every aspect of our Constitution because it is inconvenient to his whims and biases. His supporters naively believe he will not impact the Second Amendment, but with the disregard he has shown for the rest of the Bill of Rights, it is a matter of when, not if. I feel that if he is able to do this, it likely means he has become a lifetime president, better known as a king. Story 60. He is the biggest disappointment ever to walk in our White House. Seriously, he acts like a child trying to play house or play president in a childish role-playing game. There is no intelligence, no integrity, no diplomacy, and no skills whatsoever to be our strongest leader. What a joke. Elon Musk supported his presidency, and the Democrats are also to blame. People in power need to take action to remove this individual soon before the entire world reacts. It's so embarrassing. Story 61. Every law-abiding, Constitution-respecting citizen, politician, and organization should prepare to ensure that it does not happen. Story 62. Our freedom of speech is under attack. America is changed. Trump's new world order is in play. Too many are complacent. Story 63. I'm not sure all the United States population understands the gravity of this. He said before the elections, "Just vote this one time and you will never have to vote again." If that didn't send shivers down your spine, it's a real concern. Democracy is almost completely gone. Story 64. I believe tyrants are eventually addressed. It's just that many people are afraid to discuss how. Story 65. I don't understand why his followers keep saying he's just joking or trolling. When will it click that he's serious? People need to start being honest with themselves. He's not even focused on America first. He's more concerned about Greenland and the political correctness. Story 66. To do it without breaking the law, there would need to be an amendment. There is already an amendment pertaining to term limits. I think he will try everything he can think of up to that point. Hopefully, our checks and balances will hold up. However, I do not have a lot of faith that they will. Story 67. I fully believe that he will do everything in his power to stay in that office for the rest of his life. I am pretty sure it will happen at this point as well. No one has done anything to stop any other unconstitutional or illegal actions he has taken. Why would this be the line? Story 68. The dictator is attempting to use the argument that he didn't serve 2 consecutive terms, so it doesn't count. It really just sounds like 36? But last year I got 37. Story 69. He will write an executive order for a 3rd term, and no one can do anything about it. America is a joke. Story 70. It's a high assumption that he will not die of old age before this term is over. He is old. He will be very old for a 3rd term. This is still just a prison avoidance move. The instant he is out, he is done for. Story 71. That individual needs to be held accountable at least once in his life. He should already be in jail, not as president. It is absolutely ridiculous that no Republican is standing up against him. Story 72. He can do whatever he likes because he knows he can get away with it, and no one over there is doing anything to stop him. He is a sexual predator, a criminal, a stooge for his paymaster in Russia, and a significant threat to world peace. As if he would care about violating your constitution, and you have voted him in twice. Story 73. The suggestion is a disrespect of checks and balances and should result in strict removal from office. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.